Habari everyone, welcome to MRM Sports. I'm your host, Ronald M. Yes, Habari. That's hi in Swahili. Yeah, man. Football is back. You can see I'm excited. Football is back. Proper football. Yes, with international break, UEFA Nations, friendlies here and there. But then, man, nothing's like Premier League football. Nothing's like La Liga. Nothing's like Bundesliga. Those are top clubs, top leagues in the world, and the most entertaining of them all for me has to be the Premier League. And it's finally good to be over the international break. I can't wait for game after game after game till the World Cup. I mean, it's the icing on the cake. Think about it. End of year, festive season, we have a World Cup. That's just the perfect way to end the year. The perfect response to COVID, man. I mean, I'm so happy to have football back, man. Welcome to another show on MIM Sports. I'm your host, Ronald M. I was thinking, just before weekend games kick off, man, how about I look at African players doing great things, in England, in the Premier League, man. We have players who are representing Africa very well. And some players are standing out from the rest. Players I didn't expect for them to stand out. Of course, you'd expect your Egyptian pharaohs, your Mo Salahs to be the guys leading the pack. But then there have been some surprising players recently who are really doing well. For the first 6-7 games we've had, the one that jumps into my mind is to be Alex Iwobi at Everton. I mean, Frank moved him from the winger into the midfield. That guy's been excelling Like for me at the moment, dare I say, I'm left-handed, so I always lift my left hand up when I'm swearing on something. But then dare I say, for me, he has been the best African player right now. I'm not saying he's the most talented or the best overall, but then on form-wise, the player on form for me as an African, I think has to be Alex Iwobi. Yes, he doesn't have the numbers, doesn't have the assists, the goals, but then everything Everton is doing not to be in a relegation battle right now evolves around Alex Iwobi. Yes, we have the kid. Is it Anthony Gordon, who's a star? We can see he's going to be a star in the future. Chelsea wanted to buy him. We have the striker that bought him from Brighton, the French Neil Maupay. Yes, the French guy. Yes, he's going to get them the goals. But then for me, Iwobi is the engine. And I was surprised when I was doing my research on African players that Tokore is also African. I thought he was French all along. Maybe he was born in France, but then he now plays for the African team. On this video, let me just say, we're not looking at players who are black players only, but then or players who have the African heritage in them. But then we're looking at players who are representing an African team. Some players who are going to go to the World Cup, you wouldn't think they're African. For example, Lamptey. I know Lamptey at Brighton recently chose to play for his African, for Ghana, is it? Yes, he's going for Ghana. He's going to play for Ghana in the World Cup. So yeah, man, I think this is going to be a fun ride because obviously as an African guy, yes, I do support Chelsea with African players. That's partly the reason why I support Chelsea. I mean, I was hooked onto Chelsea during the years 2004, 5, 6 thereabout when Drogba Asian connection was there at Chelsea. That's when I became a Chelsea fan. I mean, but then, like I said, man, we have quality African players who are representing. And for me, already, Iwobi is that guy. Is, for me at the moment, if I was to make a team of the season so far, I think it would make a bench. Obviously, it wouldn't be in the first 11 because I think there are players who are better than me in that position. Who are also on form more than him on that position. But he would be on the bench as my first substitute in the midfield, honestly, because he is the ticking engine. He is the one who's detecting play for Everton, and for Everton to fight relegation and be a mid-table team. I think Iwobi needs to have one killer of a season, man. But let's jump right into other players. I believe there are like 43 players from African countries. That's a quite huge number when I think about it. If you take out the European players, I think Africa might be the second biggest continent with representatives in the Premier League. And that's a good thing, man. Yes, we can break it down and say most of them are from East, West, North part of Africa, but then it's still Africa after all. And that's a good number to have. It's good to show the world that yes, we continue supplying quality players, not just quantity, but then also quality. And then, of course, man, we have to talk about Mo Salah. For me, Salah is, I think, with Mane leaving, I think Salah is currently the best player we have in England, I mean, he's Mo Salah. Yes, Liverpool are in a rough patch. Salah is also in a rough patch. But then, of course, you can't take away what Salah has done. Yes, that people always say Salah. No, Salah is just a goal-scoring machine. It doesn't affect the game that much. But then his goals do affect the match. I mean, it's a results-based sport, so you expect Salah to get goals, and he gets vital goals for Liverpool. With Mane leaving, I think it's time for Salah to be the undisputed main man in that attack. And I hope Klopp does really engage him more in the team and stops pushing him out wide. And because Salah is best when he's cutting in and he's dribbling towards the 18-yard area box. And when he gets penalties, you know he's going to bury them. You hardly see Salah miss a penalty. So, but then it's been a weird start for him. I think I was surprised because I really thought it might be him and Haaland for the Golden Boot. I genuinely thought he might be challenging Haaland for the Golden Boot. But then he's had a slow start. I just hope he does pick form. And then another player I think I have to mention, without a doubt, Wilfried Zaha. I mean, Palace is in my heart. I know Chelsea is my team through and through. But then I have a soft spot for Palace. I think for Crystal Palace, just because it's a black coach in Patrick Vieira, an absolute legend of the game, one of the most dominant midfielders you ever watch play football. It's always a toss-up between him and Keane, and Roy Keane and Man U, who you prefer. But then for me, Palace is always number one, man. Patrick Vieira, sorry, it's always number one. And you can't take away with the fact that he's proving that he's a good coach now. He's proving that he can challenge any coach. He can, and his team, if you want them to play on a counter, that will be dangerous on a counter. I remember, was it against Liverpool? With absolutely, I think it was against Liverpool. I think the match ended up as a 1-1 draw where they really played good football and they gave everyone a run for their money. Even against City when they ended up losing 4-2. Some parts of that match, City way looked a bit terrified-ish, looked a bit under pressure. And Zaha has been on form, man. Zaha has started the season very well. He's one player that will continue for me. I think will continue to shine and lift the African flag guy. And earlier this week I was reading that he's actually bought a team in Ivory Coast. Obviously, that's good for development-wise. I don't think he's buying it to dominate the... I think it's in 4th tier anyway, and I don't think it will dominate the Ivory Coast League. But then for players to come through and for young players to know that they're playing for a team which is owned by a Premier League legend in the making. I mean, it's already, for me, a Crystal Palace legend already. But then for young players in Ivory Coast, man, yes, Ivory Coast has given us top quality players. As a Chelsea fan, I know. But then for Zaha to do that, to give back to the community, in a sport he's absolutely loves and has made a fortune out of. That's a brilliant thing to do, man. And I was also shocked to learn like players like Mbeumo at Brentford are actually African. There's some players you never know. Like, they don't catch your eye from the moment they step foot. That we have this thing now that we see a black player, somehow subconsciously maybe you assume is French nationality. I know most of them are born in France, but then they end up choosing to play for the African heritage, for the African countries, mainly from their parents and stuff. And it's quite nice to see like a player like Mbeumo who's stepping up, I always prefer players who are black players who have to shine and show that they deserve to play in the first 11 for any club they play in the Premier League. And if you think of Ivan Toney, I know he's British, and Mbeumo, that partnership, I think this season again it will flourish. Yes, Toney has grabbed the headlines more as of yet, with scoring hat-tricks and being called up for the England duty. But then I think Mbeumo is also key for Toney to continue performing. Mbeumo can chip in the assist and goals. And that's one player I think, if you follow African footballers, you have to look at it and think, yeah, he's going to make it. He has what it takes. He is quick. He is a bit buff. He is strong. I mean, they complement each other so well, Ivan Toney. And I can't talk African players without talking about Chelsea. Chelsea. I mean, we have 3. Yeah, no, we have 4. We have 4 African players. I mean, we have Mendy at goal. We have Koulibaly. The mighty strong Senegalese captain Koulibaly, with Hakim Ziyech and Oba, the goal scoring machine. I mean, yes, he hasn't done it for Chelsea now, but then it's been only 2 games, 2.5, 2 games, I think 2.5 games they're about. Yeah, 2 games. No, it's actually been a game and a half when you think about it, because he hasn't really played the full 90 minutes. So obviously, we have that African connection at Chelsea. I mean, I expect all of them to step up, if I'm being honest. Hakim Ziyech from Algeria, under Tuchel, it never really like shined. You never saw more of him. He never really created the chances I thought was going to bring when he came through from Ajax. He's never been that guy at Chelsea. And I think under a new coach now, he has to step up. I think under Graham Potter, he has to step up. We need creativity in that Chelsea team. And he has to create for Opa. I mean, I would love for Aubameyang to score against Arsenal, man. And when we eventually beat Arsenal this season, I know we have always have that routine victory over Arsenal. But then I would love Opa to score and just see Arteta's face, man. Yeah, man. I think also Mendy at goal has to step up. He has been a bit shaky. After winning AFCON, I think, yes, he had those 2 games against Liverpool, the cup finals. But then there have been some games where he has been a bit shaky. Even the Champions League exit, I think the first match against Real Madrid last season at home, where he actually made a howler for that Benzema goal. I mean, we need Mendy to step up. I can't deal a season with Kepa as our main goalkeeper. We need Mendy to step up. And Koulibaly, I hope this international break actually helped him a bit to try and get how Premier League football is, to talk to the new coach, what is demanded from him, because we need him as the rock. If he's going to replace Antonio Rudiger, man, we need him at the rock of that Chelsea defense, alongside, for me, Thiago Silva and the kid we bought from Leicester, man. Yeah, those are the Chelsea stars. Hey, man, Chelsea's deep African talent. I mean, when you think about it, Chelsea has always been that flag bearer for African quality in the Premier League. From the early 2000s, we've always been that team. And then you think Zambian connection in Passon Daka at Leicester. Another player I think has to step up now with Vardy getting old. And it's between him and Iheanacho in a Nigerian connect. I mean, African players are doing so good, man. I can't believe almost every team. Let me think of a team which doesn't have an African player. Like in the starting 11 or thereabout. It must be Man U. I think out of the top 6, yeah, it must be Man U. And like I was saying, Passon Daka, I mean, Zambian connect from the southern part of Africa. It's good to see him shining. And it does, like I'm saying in this video, these players are not just playing because they're African. They're actually playing because they are good players and they deserve. When you think about it, between him and Iheanacho, you have to choose between 2 African brothers. That's a good thing, okay? When you think Passon Daka, I think it's time for him to take over from Jamie Vardy. Yes, Vardy will always be crucial for Leicester. We'll never forget what Vardy did, but then age is finally catching up with him. And Brendan Rodgers doesn't seem to fancy Vardy that much more. So it's time for Passon Daka. I know Leicester are currently fighting relegation, and for me as an African guy, I would love to see Daka and Ndidi, Amate, and Iheanacho to spare Leicester forward, man, to try and get Leicester back into European football. Maybe is it Conference League or Europa League. I would love for them to do that. And then you think players I'd love to see step up again or given a chance to step up is Bissouma at Tottenham Hotspur. I think that guy is a midfield general. When you watch Bissouma, if you watched like your Obi, who recently retired, man, happy retirement to Mikel Obi, former Chelsea player, of course, who actually announced his retirement a few days ago. When you think of Bissouma, as I was saying, you have a bit of that John Obi Mikel Asian-ish in him. And when you think how that kind of a player is a dying breed at the moment, we no longer get that defensive, solid midfielder, that DM, that in the Makelele mode. Okay, I'm not saying Bissouma is Makelele, but then we never get that kind of player anymore. That player who loves to play that position. I mean, now you have more of a technical, like your Jorginhos, your Busquets and stuff. So for me, Bissouma can be that player. And I'd love to see Conte giving him the time to actually start a match for a change. To actually start and push maybe Hoppe out of the team. In Hoppe's defense, he has been doing good. But I would love for him to actually step up and be given more game time. I think he's actually vital for Conte's side to progress. You think of Conte when Conte was at Chelsea, having that Matic and Kante midfield, how it actually helped him create that solid base for his defenders. I think Besuma and Hope, or Besuma and Bentancur can be that for Tottenham Hotspur. And I'd love to see Besuma given more time, man. And you think African players, again, in that DM position, you can't help but not overlook Thomas Partey at Arsenal. For Arsenal to be title contenders, for me, Thomas Partey has to be fit. Yes, Xhaka has been doing the job. He's been, I think, like Konga, he's been doing a solid job there. But then, for them to actually push teams, for their creative side, your Sakas, your Martinelli, Odegaard, to actually express themselves more, I think you need Partey next to Xhaka for them to see it as a tool. Yes, I know Mohamed Al-Nain, Egyptian, I can't say Pharaoh because Salah is there, but then another Egyptian, let's say God. Yeah, another good player from Africa. I expect them to do a solid job once in a while, but then Partey, if Partey doesn't get injured for like 2-3 months or for the games before the World Cup, for him to push, and then also for the World Cup for Ghana as well, I think for Arsenal to maintain that top spot at the moment, they need Partey to step up. They need Partey to be fully fit, to always fight in that midfield battle, because he is a solid player. If you used to watch La Liga, man, when he was playing for Atletico, you can't deny that he is quality. He is top quality. There's no two ways about it, man. Yeah, when you think about it, man, we have some quality African players. I mean, of course, Palace as players. Then you have your Sage Aurier for Nottingham Forest. Hopefully, as part of the 21 players who are signed by Nottingham Forest, he will step up. Of course, you do have other players in other teams. Some are skipping my mind, man. But then, when you think about it, I'm trying to think of a Premier League team which doesn't have African players. I mean, you do have your Kone at West Ham, who I think can steal one of those wide attacking for positions. Besides Manchester United, City, how can I forget Riyad Mahrez? I mean, Mahrez has been the cream de la creme, the Algerian maestro for City. I mean, Pep loves Mahrez. Yes, at times doesn't look like a Man City player, but then he's that maverick. For me, Mahrez is way better than Jack Grealish. For me, Mahrez is way, way, way better than Jack Grealish. I mean, Mahrez is always that wild card. He doesn't play the normal 1-2 passing, especially from Pep's side. But then there's that magic first touch. I think for controlling, ball control, he might be the best in the Premier League. Like when the ball is fist to him, the way he just calms it down. I mean, just pulls it from the air. Mahrez is quality. How can I forget Mahrez? I mean, now I'm tempted to do it like an all-star African 11. Yes, there have been all-star teams, the all-star talk in the led by Chelsea, of course, Todd Volley of the South versus the North or whatever. If you think the best African 11 players in the Premier League would put up a strong team, you think Mahrez on one flank, Salah, Oba in front, you think Partey in the mid, you think defensive men with quality players. So I'm trying to think of Arsenal as players, African players, Chelsea, of course, Spurs, of course, Liverpool, of course, with Matip again, Cameroonian, with what Arsenal I did mention, Manchester City, there are players, West Ham with players, Leicester with players, Nottingham Forest, Everton. Which team doesn't? Brighton does have players. I think it must be Man U. I need to research again, but then it must be Man U doesn't have a player, like an African player in the first 11. But man, I hope after the international break, all African players will shine. I don't care which team you played for. Yes, some teams are rivals. Like, I wouldn't want Arsenal to win. I wouldn't want Spurs to win. I wouldn't want City, Man U to win. But then, as an African guy, I want African players to do well. I expect them to do well. I want them to continue to prove to the continent that Africa shouldn't be overlooked as a source of great players. You know, when they talk top players, they talk Europe and then South America. I think it's time for Africa to give it that platform as well, to say we do produce quality. Historically, we've always produced quality. I mean, you think of a Drogba, a Toes, is it George Weah? Yeah, George Weah, the current president of Liberia, I think. The only Ballon d'Or winner. Africa deserves to have more Ballon d'Or players, Ballon d'Or winners from Africa, of course. I mean, we have produced quality. Yes, South America will always stand out. I mean, currently they have Lionel Messi, or Neymar, or Vinicius Juniors. But then Africa shouldn't be overlooked, because most leagues have African players. Most teams across platforms have African players. And you can't overlook that. We cannot overlook that. Yes, of course, some are born in France, and it's always a beautiful thing to have them choose to represent the African heritage, man. So again, this weekend's games, I'll be keeping a close eye on African players, and it's always that good moment. I know Zaha is playing against Chelsea, but if he gets a goal, I can't hate that. I mean, you can't hate on your brother who's representing and is proud to African. I mean, when you think African players, this just dropped in my mind. You cannot stop and fail to think of that tattoo Aubameyang have with the wings on the African map. I mean, that's a dope tattoo. That's a dope tattoo by Aubameyang, man. And as I said, I hope African players will do well, and I genuinely hope one day in the near future we do get an African coach. I mean, there's been debate in my social media groups, in my WhatsApp groups, that a coach like Pitso Mosimane was done it across the African club, not only in South African Premier League, in the DStv Premier League, now known as the DStv Premier League. But then you think how he's won the African Champions League in Al Ahly, Egypt, one of the most difficult teams to manage, an African giant to manage. I would love to see him in the Premier League. Maybe given a job. Why not the Bournemouth job when you think about it? Because he has that African pedigree. And I would love to see him take it. And of course, man, you have to mention Benny McCart at Manchester United, part of the technical staff. I mean, the strikers coach. Benny's working CR7. Two goats working together. I mean, that's brilliant, man. You have to give light to Africa. Like, Africa is doing good job in Europe. Players are proving themselves. And this World Cup, man, is it wishful thinking? Is it a dream to hope that maybe finally we'll get a team in the semi-finals or even in the final? I mean, Senegal is the team we'll have to support. We expect Senegal to go all the way, man. Not win the World Cup. Why not? But then maybe get out of the quarter-final stage. Maybe the first team to reach this World Cup semi-final. That would be dope, man. I'll definitely be cheering all African teams. I don't care which African team. When it comes to World Cup, I want Senegal to go all the way, because I think they are the African champions, the AFCON Cup holders at the moment. And talent-wise, I think they are the best team, and they are managed by an African coach as well, man. So hopefully African players continue to fly the flag up high and shine and show the world at large that Africa produces, and there's more to being a player than just being a player, if you get what I'm saying. They represent the whole continent. They make football even spread into other parts of Africa where it's not, where they don't have access to maybe watching the Premier League. I mean, every country would wish to have an African player play in the Premier League. I mean, most countries Western countries have more players than others. If you think of Nigerians, your Cameroons, your Malis, your Senegalese teams, they produce more players, and obviously European teams like to fish from those parts. And maybe it's time for Southern African players to actually step up and try to go to maybe the French League, the juniors of French League as young players, so that they can be groomed and get in line or in touch with the European football, and we get to see more players from the southern side of Africa, man. But yeah, like I'm saying, man, I can't wait for the weekend to kick off to see African players flying the flag high and producing the goods, and Salah to kick up, Keita to finally play for Liverpool, to have a great run of fixtures, to see Oba. For me, Oba has to step up. Chelsea has to rise. I mean, I'm a Chelsea through and through. Guys, this has been fun, man. Just listening to me wobble about Africa. I mean, Africa my beginning, Africa my home. I mean, I love this continent. Guys, this has been fun, man. Thank you. Cheers, man. Do enjoy the weekend's Premier League. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video. I'll be dropping more content very soon. The preview of the weekend games, and of course the match review after the game week and Champions League. Like I said, football is back. Europa League, Manchester United are back. Conference League, West Ham are back. Spanish, I'll also do a bit of La Liga. I'll also do a bit of French League. I mean, I'm a Messi fan, so I have to also look at PSG, do a bit of Bundesliga. Mane has to step up now. and see how it goes, man. I also try to engage in the Premier League and the Serie A. Oh, those are big leagues as well, and also have African players, they're doing wonders there, man. This has been fun, guys. Please do enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm your host, Ronald M.